Mr. Zero to Infinity says hello. Let's get straight into this episode. How to grow a small portfolio in 2020 with growth stocks. What better way to answer this question than show you exactly what I've been doing with the portfolio on your screen. The portfolio value at the time of this recording is a little over $5,000. If you're subscribed, you already know I've been documenting and sharing my journey of growing one of my stock portfolios here on YouTube, starting at zero, with my very first episode, episode 1, at the beginning of the year, which was on January 6th, 2020. If you're looking to grow one of your stock portfolios as high as possible and maybe to infinity, then click that like button. Mr. Zero to Infinity is interested to see how high it will go. Before I get into my journey, always remember I'm not a financial advisor and this is not investment advice. I'm just showing what I've been doing over the past couple of months. You will have your own unique journey, risk tolerance, and portfolio management style as you level up yourself. A little background. I've been investing over 10 plus years, constantly perfecting my investment strategy. Lots of my personal investing principles have already been discussed in earlier episodes. So if you're like me, the first thing you are looking at is probably the total gain with the stock portfolio on your screen. Since I started the portfolio at the beginning of the year, this is the portfolio's performance year to date, and I have yet to sell any stocks at this time. Is that a good percentage gain? That's a very subjective question. You might think it's good, and I might think it's bad. Keep in mind, future performance is never guaranteed. This portfolio's overall return can be in the red next week. Knowing that my stock portfolio is very small, that's okay with me because I'll be able to increase the size of my holdings at a lower cost basis. None of my stocks are anywhere close to the size of the positions I ultimately want them to be at, since I've only been working with a small amount of money. To put things into perspective, research the S&P 500 performance year to date. It's a negative number at this time. If you follow the overall market like me, you know the stock market crashed in 2020 and the percentage down was much higher a few weeks ago. While others were selling stocks during the crash, I was buying stocks in the portfolio. Each episode has a portfolio update that includes how many shares I bought and added to the portfolio when you compare it to the previous episode. If you're like me, the next thing I'm looking at are the stock names and the total gain for each position. 3 stocks are in the green, 5 are international, Apple, and Starbucks, and 1 is in the red, Penn National Gaming. You may or may not have heard about all 4 of these stocks. Do I always try my best to keep all my stocks in the green? Of course, that's always my goal. I've discussed a few of my thoughts on my bull thesis for each stock in earlier episodes. All of my stocks have reported earnings, and you could clearly see the winners and losers up to this point in time. For any new listeners, I focus on growth stocks, and I try to pick top growth stocks that will continue to go up on a weekly basis in a moving market. At least I try my best to do so. I have a long-term outlook on each stock in the portfolio, which explains why I haven't sold any shares up to this point. That may change depending on my continuous research each week. Always remember, you'll have your own stock picks matching up with your unique personal goals and time horizon. Since the stock portfolio on your screen is still a very small account in my opinion, I will continue to add cash as the episodes continue into the future. I have no plans to take the small gain and buy shoes or a nice dinner. I'm not looking to make a couple $100 here. I'm looking to make tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands, which will just take time to build up to, since the portfolio started at zero only a few months ago. Let me discuss a few things I learned about investing in the stock market, since I know a lot of beginners may be watching this episode. I was a beginner just like you might be. Everyone starts with no knowledge, zero, about the stock market, and over time, you start to soak up knowledge as the years go by. When I started investing in the stock market, I wanted to make money as fast as possible with little money. Doesn't everyone? When you have that mindset, especially with a small account, I eventually ran into a roadblock. For example, to make quick money on, let's say, $500, I wanted to get a 100% return in a few days or weeks if possible. A 100% return on 500 is $500, so the small account would have doubled to $1,000 if I was lucky enough to get a return like that in a quick time period. You notice what word I used? Lucky. This type of investing is categorized as trading. I learned at a young age that trading is very difficult to do on a weekly basis, so rather than time the market, I prefer the motto of time in the market. In the perfect world, let's say a small account doubled to $1,000, right? And then we get really lucky and the small account triples to $3,000, and then another double to $6,000. If you add up the percentage gain starting at the original $500 and now the account is $6,000, you'd probably be considered one of the best traders in the world, especially if you did all those moves in 1 year. Look, if you have a trading strategy that works for you, that's fantastic. I'll be rooting you on. Everyone has their own method of multiplying their money in the stock market, and I learned that trading was not for me since consistent returns is tough to do, and eventually you may run into a major roadblock and trade a losing stock that sinks your portfolio one day. That type of trading strategy doesn't work for me. I do think short-term investing on a trend I'm seeing is okay with me. With my YouTube portfolio, my strategy is to focus on capital gains. To do that, I research growth stocks that have potential to go up in value over a long period of time. To level up quicker, I plan on adding money to increase my purchasing power so I can build each stock position higher and higher along the journey. Sure, it takes time and money, but look where the stock portfolio started a couple of months ago, and we now are into the 4-figure club, heading towards the 5-figure club. Will there be downs along the way? Of course there will. I'll have losing stocks, and I know that, but I try to make sure I have more winners that hold up the portfolio as the years tick by. To add, I wanted to go over a quick lesson I learned a long time ago when researching stocks and stock picks. The best items to research for any stocks are the financial reports on the investor relations page for whichever stock you're looking up. When you start reading articles and watching YouTube videos, make sure to understand that you may not be listening to facts, but opinions depending on the source. Each person has their own mind when it comes to trying to predict the future for specific stocks. Always make sure to do your own research to formulate your own conclusions prior to investing your hard-earned money. The stock market is a place for making money, and it's also a place for losing a lot of money too. That is, if you sell. If you made it this far into the episode, I appreciate your time today. If you ever have any questions, I'd be glad to review them via email. The best email is mr0toinfinityquestions@gmail.com. If I get a good question, I could possibly add a question and answer segment for each episode. Just brainstorming an idea here. You let me know. So to recap, how do I grow a small stock portfolio in 2020 with growth stocks? I will continue to do my research on stocks that have growth potential and match up with my risk tolerance and time horizon. And when I find top stocks in 2020, I'll continue to buy shares of stock over long periods of time so I can allow compound interest to take over and make my money work for me sooner rather than later. I will eventually sell my stocks depending if my bull thesis changes as the weeks tick on. My goal is to continue to grow my YouTube stock portfolio from $0 to $5,000, and then $5,000 to $100,000, and then $100,000 to $1 million, $1 million to infinity. There's no rush on the journey. Please don't copy my stock portfolio since you have your own unique investment goals that will be much different from my goals. Let's end it there. Play the music. As always, this episode is not intended as investment advice. Do your own research prior to making any investments. Read the disclaimer on your screen fully. Remember, all opinions in this episode are mine and mine alone. I'm not a financial advisor, and this video is for educational and informational purposes only. Maybe I didn't earn your subscription with this episode, but there's always next episode. It's free to subscribe, and my favorite comment from last episode is on your screen. Feel free to click on some of my earlier episodes. Thanks again for watching. Let's keep building from zero to infinity. Mr. Zero to Infinity told me to tell you, you got this.